But first, we wanted to bring on someone who needs barely an introduction, Roger Waters, activist, musician, icon, joining us from Rio in Brazil. Roger, thank you so much for taking some time out to be with us today on the Electronic Intifada live stream.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
hi, Roger. Thank you.
Not at all, Ali. Good to see you, and Asa, and all of you. Wow. Well, that's obviously moving beyond belief to hear those ladies from Alberta, from the diaspora, talking to us.
Yeah.
We in this room, 5 of us now here together, we are part of the body that they were talking about. And we are not alone. There are billions of us all over the globe. We've seen parts of the body that is Palestine, that is the heart and soul of that wonderful country. And they're demonstrating in huge, huge numbers all over the world to somehow attempt to get our leaders to start seeing what's going on in a realistic way. Because at the moment, they are living in cloud cuckoo land. And we can all see it. Not just those ladies we were just listening to, not just the 5 of us sitting here in this studio, but billions of us all over the world. So we all feel a similar extraordinary frustration about watching this genocide in Gaza. And in fact, the slow genocide that's been going on since 1948, this didn't start on October the 7th, as we all know, or in 21, or in 2019, or in 2014, when Max Blumenthal, our friend, wrote 51 Days. Or it started back in the 19th century, and then obviously just after the war, and in 1947, when the first massacres took place. Deir and Atatur and the other places that are now becoming now, we're beginning to see documentary evidence and admissions from old men who were in the IDF or who were in the Stern Gang or the Ergen Gang or whoever it was back in those days. Yesterday, I'm going to ramble because we have not yet talked about the future. Okay. There was just a vague mention of what happens after this. If there is an after this, it's quite possible that the demented Joe Biden and the demented Netanyahu and the other dementedly, and Rishi Sunak and Macron and all the other leaders of the Western world, it is possible that they are willingly driving the rest of us, who they assume to be lemmings, over the cliff into Armageddon. All right? Because an awful lot of this can be laid at the door of a fanatical belief in God. The Christian fascists in the United States are slavering for Israel to kill all the Palestinians and survive as a state so that Armageddon can happen and Jesus will come back and take them all by the hand and they'll go to heaven and all the Jews will burn in hell forever and blah, 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 blah. So we should never forget that this heinous philosophy, religious philosophy, is somewhere at the bottom of all of this.
Roger.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Ali.
no, that I think bringing up the sort of power of Christian Zionism as a sort of and Christian nationalism in the United States is one of the drivers for this. I know I've seen that in different parts of the country where you'll see Israeli flags up on churches. It sort of underscores that for me. But now the I don't know if we have the clip of you at your concert in Brazil, and I don't know if you've done this in other places. We showed it the other day, but I think it would be good to show it again. putting up on stage, on screen, the urgent call, stop the genocide, which is the most urgent thing. And I wanted to ask you, what you're in Brazil right now. I don't know which other countries you're going through with the tour. Forgive me, I have not looked at your tour schedule with everything going on. But what's the response you're getting there? I mean, I don't know if you heard my remarks earlier, but here in the United States, 2/3 of people, 2/3 want a ceasefire. And that includes 80% of Democrats and a majority of Republicans. And that was 10 days ago, before we even saw the worst of this. So that's in the US, most people want a ceasefire. And our politicians are completely on another planet. What are you seeing in your travels? What was the response at your concerts?
You know, it's when you're playing in a football stadium and there's 40 or 50,000 people stretched out in front. It's and you're wearing in-ears to hear the music that you're playing, and it's very difficult to actually gauge the response that is out there. You know, but my gut feeling is that, and I promise you this: when we put up "Stop the Genocide" on 4 30-foot square, very, very bright LED screens, while I'm singing "Lay Down Jerusalem, Lay Your Burden Down," and which is a song that I wrote in 2015, so it's quite a new song. That's only 8 years old, but nevertheless, as you know, Ali, I've been banging this drum for at least 20 years now. So, and I was a latecomer to the party, but the choir I was speaking about, it's billions. I'm quite certain that the majority of the people, I'm in Sao Paulo, by the way. Rio was 2 nights ago. Porto Alegre was last night. I'm in Sao Paulo. And so yeah, I think that you on Intifada are beginning to win. Yeah, that's what our stage looks like every night in the middle of Deja. The only thing is that in the song "In the Flesh" that I do at the beginning, where I was almost banned from doing concerts in Germany earlier this year because I was doing a satirical takeoff of exactly the kind of Nazi tyranny, appetite. So we've changed "In the Flesh" a bit. I now do it in a wheelchair, in a straitjacket, you know, because that's where they want me. Actually, they want me in a straitjacket. I can't perform, so that's what I do. But the opening bars are prison bars on those 4 big screens that you saw, and behind the prison bars are the most up-to-date horrific scenes from the bombing of Gaza that I can find, and we're changing them and updating them all the time. So the opening of that is there every night on the screens. Well, we've been doing this though for years. I was doing this all through the Us and Them tour in 2008, and this is not a drill tour.
Roger,
hang on, just let me finish something, because I got off the point of what we're going to do now, because this is fundamentally important because of the Christian right and because of their desire for the end of time. You know, Joe Biden probably has wet dreams about the end of times at night. Probably, he actually probably does, because that's what he's driving us to. What should happen? I'll tell you what should happen. The Israeli government, not the people. Have you seen the videos of the Israeli police beating up Orthodox Jewish men with their, kappas and their ringlets, beating them up in the street for saying, "We don't believe in massacring our neighbors. It's against everything that Judaism stands for." Bang! They just smashed them to bits for even saying that it's against their religion to be massacring people. Anyway, I'm losing my thread. No, I'm not. Here we go. Yeah. Israel clearly is a completely failed state. They've been having a go at it since 1946, and it is clearly an absolute, total, crazed failure. If God did choose them, God has forsaken them now. Look what they've become. Look what they are doing. I mean, I confess I'm an atheist, but if there is a God, he could be doing nothing now but saying, not in my name, Netanyahu and the rest of you, not in God's name. How dare you take my name in vain like this? So they would have to then say, look, we're sorry. It's been completely wrong since 1947-48. We're sorry. We get it. This is obviously, we're going to stop doing that now. Yes, please. Can we please stay here when the Holy Land becomes one united democratic state, a new state with equal human rights for all of the people who live there, all the Arabs and all the Jews and all the Christians and anybody else who wants to come and treat each other like human beings and cooperate and bring up their children and encourage the universities and encourage all this great talent that we saw your previous speakers talk about. That is the future. All right, I've said it again. And of course, the Israeli lobby will be up in arms again, explaining how I'm crazy and I should be in a straitjacket and nobody should ever listen to a word that I say. Well, they're wrong, because I speak at least one truth that might be a viable answer to all of this. And I'd love to see somebody debate this with a Joe Biden or this, because what this is all rhetorical nonsense. Sorry, Ali, I'll stop now. I tend to go on.
No, I have to say that was a tour de force, and I couldn't agree more. That you said, let's talk about the future, and that is an absolutely beautiful vision, and the one we've been talking about for years, but the one that Israel is adamantly opposed to, and not just Israel, but the United States and Europe and everyone else. But Roger, what I want to ask you, and I mean, by the way, perhaps Asa will read some of them out later, but the comments are just, people are just absolutely in agreement with what you're saying, and very appreciative as we are. But you alluded earlier about how your concerts were almost banned in Germany, and how the Israel lobby calls you crazy, and I have to say, crazy is one of the nicer things they call you. That's almost a compliment compared with some of what they say. But I get messages all the time from people saying, you know, I want to speak out, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, or I'm afraid I'm going to face some sort of repercussions. Not everyone is a rock star, so not everyone can go up on stage and do what they want. But my question is that there's a lot of rock stars, there's a lot of people with a great deal of power, whether it's cultural power or economic power or political power, who don't use that platform and that voice to speak out the way you are for Palestine, not just Palestine, but for other just causes. And I just want to ask you, as someone who probably hangs out with rock stars more than I do, why do you think that is? What is stopping them?
I don't hang out with rock stars, for God's sake.
All right, well, I don't know. I don't
know what I mean.
I said probably. Maybe. I don't know.
I'll tell you why. I'll answer your question, though. Not all people who are in the music industry were lucky enough to have had my mum and dad. My father had the grace to die in a battle at Aprilia near Anzio in the bridgehead, fighting the Nazis in 1944. February the 18th, he died. Okay. And my mother, who was a young woman and was serving hot tea to people in bomb shelters all through the Blitz in London, and had been on teacher training in Bradford. That's huge for me, that those politics were in my blood. But then I'll tell the story again. When I was 13 years old, one day my mother could see I was thinking about something, and she said, Roger, come here, I'm going to give you some advice. all through your life, you will be faced with knotty problems. These are the knotty problems, Ali, that my fellow rock stars, as you like to call them, are facing. This is a knotty problem. I mean, it's very simple. We all know, those of us who've studied it know this. Okay, so he said, when you do, this is what you do. You read everything that you can about whatever it is. So in this case, it would be reading the history from the Nakba on through to and previous history. By all means, read the Balfour Declaration, but read the whole fucking letter, not just the first sentence. Read the bit about save that rights of the indigenous people, non-Jewish people already living there, which is the second. So read everything, and not just the opinions you agree with, read all opinions. When you've done that, you've done all the heavy lifting, the hard work is over. Oh, really, Mum? And what do I do? What's the next bit then? And she's, you do the right thing. Well, that's all I needed for my education. You know, yes, of course, I went on into university and blah and all of that, but that, oh, that is, if every child in the world had a parent who said that to them and they believed it, and that's what we all do, all of us here in this room, and the billions of people all over the world who are going out in the streets, all of them waving Palestinian flags and shouting free Palestine everywhere, from Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, all over, South Africa, huge movement, 500,000 people in London the other day. That's the biggest thing since we tried to stop George W. Bush Jr. from invading Iraq, along with Tony Blair and the other miscreants and insane people who ought to be in the Fletcher Memorial Home for tyrants and kings. But that is another story. All right, I finished again.
Well, I see someone admonishing me for calling you a rock star in the comments and saying Roger is in a class all of his own, and I can only agree with that.
Well, I don't know how much longer we've got, but thank you so much for having me on so that I could listen to that testimony from Canada as well. I have very close friends in the movement in Canada. In fact, I have close friends all over the world in this big family of ours of activists who actually believe in human rights, because that's all this is about. It's all about Paris 1948. I once got a letter from Dionne Warwick, lovely singer, you know, and probably a lovely grandmother and a lovely this and a lovely that and that. But she was having a go at me because she said I was trying to stop her doing a concert in Tel Aviv. I actually hadn't said a dicky bird. I had no idea she was going to Tel Aviv, but I'm glad she thought I was. And I wrote her a letter, and I haven't got it in front of me, but basically I said, I've looked you up, Dionne, right? In 1948, you were 8, because you're 5 years older than me or whatever. And you were living in a suburb of Chicago. Try and imagine this, Dionne. There's a knock on the door, you open the door, and there's a bloke there in a sort of paramilitary uniform or whatever. And he pokes you in the chest with his gun and says, out. I beg your pardon. Out. Go on, there's the road. Go to Canada. What? We live here. This is my grandparents' house, you know, where I'm not telling you again, out. And then your father comes around the corner and he says, what are you doing? Why are you pointing a gun at my daughter? Bang! And your father's dead on the floor, dead, stone dead on the floor. Do I have to tell you again? And then grandma starts picking up odd bit. And you get out, you leave your house and you go walking down the road in a state of total trauma because some fucking stranger has just shot your father and forced you to start walking toward Canada. And your life from then is the diaspora. You have no idea. You don't know why. How would you feel? I'm asking you to not, now since you brought it up, I'm asking you to not cross a picket line that has been asked for by the whole of Palestinian civil society. That is why I support the BDS movement.
Oh, Roger, are you there?
I'm here.
Roger,
I
they're
am
trying
here.
to shut you up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I am here. Anyway, you get the point. You know, Dion, you have to be able to empathize with others. If you can't, you've got a serious bit of your humanity is missing. Joe Biden can't, okay? Rishi Sunak can't, Tony Blair can't. Well, I don't need to go on. The list is endless of people who cannot empathize with her. They can't put themselves in it, and neither can you, dear. I was thinking yesterday about the end of Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice, a film most of you are too young to remember. But it was back, I don't know, in the early 70s. But the end of it is Dionne Warwick singing, "What the world needs now is love, sweet love." That's the only thing that it's worth living for. That's the lyric, roughly. And so I sometimes think of Dionne and that song at the end of that film. It's got Elliot Gould and a few other people in it. Yeah, well, that says it all. What the world needs now. We have to be able to empathize with the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. Let's not forget those old rabbis with they're not dreadlocks, so what are they called? Definitely not dreadlocks. Being beaten up by the police in old Jerusalem. They're beating up their own just for differing in their opinion of what God's intention is. You know, it's bizarre, obviously. But all we can do is go on trying to increase the size of the choir, telling the choir, we're with you every time you wave that flag on a demonstration in Kuala Lumpur or wherever it is, or Johannesburg or London or Toronto or Alberta or Edmonton, or we are all with you. We are part of this choir. This choir is enormous, absolutely enormous. And eventually it will get through their thick heads that they cannot go against the people's will. All right. There are many, many, many more of us than there are of them. And they are wrong. We are right. And together we all have to explain to the Israeli government that it's over. You have failed us. All right. You are now a terrible example of what can happen when supremacist ideologies take over our capacity to empathize with our fellow human beings. This is what happens. And it's fucking awful. And you are doing it. Stop doing it. So we need billions of people to be there in the streets saying, stop the genocide now. I'm doing it every night in my own small way, on my little stage or whatever, and joining you folk here on whatever this podcast is called. And this is all we can do, but thank heavens that we're doing. Yeah, go on, Ali. You've got your finger up.
Oh, no, but well, I want to say, I know that I speak for many, many people in that choir all around the world who say thank you for using your voice and using your platform. And that provides a lot of encouragement to other people that they can do the same, because there is an effort to silence all of us on this issue and to make us too scared to talk about it. And I think the more people who speak up, the more courage that they have to speak out, and the more normalized it becomes to speak out. So it's just critically important that you're doing this, Roger, and we are very, very, very grateful for that clarity and support.
Let me just interject. I'm very grateful to Asa Winstanley for writing his books, The Weaponization of Anti-Semitism, because it's a huge help to all of us to have a tone like that we can refer to. Oh, look,
Asa, you have a copy behind you. Why don't you just show it for people?
Yeah, this is a must read. There you go.
Yeah, and thank you, Roger, for your support.
Not at all. You can send my cup.
No, but seriously, thank you very much for all your
It's
support.
a great book. It's a must read.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that.
I
Thank you
read
so much, Rod.
I read our friend Gideon Levy's piece, from Harrods this morning. John Whitbeck sent it round in one of his, and the beginning of it is him talking about pulling terrorists from the rubble. And obviously his point is that when he pulls a terrorist from the rubble, it's 3 years old, or it's 8 months old, and it's dead as mud and covered in blood. And oh, look, another terrorist. Oh, it's chilling, but he's a big part of the voice of the choir as well, as are so many wonderful Israelis, Israeli Jews, part of this choir. And more power to you all. That's all.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Roger. We're going to let you go because we know you have concerts to run and perform.
Never mind the concerts, I've got to eat eggs and bacon now.
Well,
it's even better. It's lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roger. Come back soon. We'd love to have you back again soon. Thank you.
Be wonderful.
Thank you.